When God gives a special grace, he's giving you a special mission. He's giving you a special task.
So when we talk about the dogma of the Immaculate Conception, we should first note that dogmas are usually very straightforward things. They're simple statements of fact that Our Lady was conceived herself. Again, this is not talking about the conception of Jesus, but Our Lady was herself conceived without original sin, and that this was accomplished through the grace that Christ would win on the cross, that grace is applied to her ahead of time in a unique way so that she can fittingly accomplish her role in God's plan and history.
From the moment of the Immaculate Conception to the Assumption, we see that she was indeed full of grace, that she was the one who was chosen for this special role, who cooperated with that grace in offering her continued yes to God's divine and mysterious plan.
She is someone who is immaculately conceived, but it also culminates the whole Old Testament. We see this actually in the Annunciation. We see this in the way that the Archangel Gabriel speaks to the Blessed Virgin, that he invites her into this very particular relationship and this very particular role in salvation history to conceive within herself the very Son of God.
And biblically, we can look back to the angel's greeting to Mary in Luke 1:28, where he addresses her in an unusual way. The angel greets Mary, "Hail, full of grace."
Now this is what's interesting, because St. Luke wants us to really pay attention to this, because it says Mary's troubled, but she's not troubled by the fact that an angel actually comes to see her. That's not what's bothering her. There's something else that she's troubled by. It says, "But she was greatly troubled at the saying, and considered in her mind what sort of greeting this might be." St. Luke is kind of crying out to us, like, pay attention to what the angel is saying to Mary. We in the Hail Mary we begin by saying Hail Mary, which is basically saying, hello Mary. And the angel comes and he says, hello, but he doesn't say hello Mary. We know her name's Mary, but he doesn't call her by that name. He doesn't call her by her earthly name. He has another name. He has a heavenly name for her. He calls her full of grace. And it's a very, very odd kind of word that he's using there, because we don't have it in, of course, the English. It gets translated in many different ways. Sometimes it's full of grace. Sometimes it's translated as highly favored one. Sometimes it's translated as fortunate one or happy one. But the word itself, we'll do a little Greek, but is actually kakaratomene. And it's a very, very odd word used in a strange way.
Dear Rachel, I hope you're doing well. Your grandfather and I cannot wait to meet our first great-grandchild. I wanted to let you know that I am always praying for you. Seems like just yesterday when I was taking you to Mass as a child yourself. Anyways, though I know you haven't really kept your faith through the years, I wanted to gift you with this miraculous medal. As you embark on this new journey of being a first-time mother, I pray that you always know to run to her for any needs you might have, great or small. Echo these words of Mother Teresa. Mother Mary, be a mother to me now. May she and all the angels watch over you and protect you and keep you safe always. Love, Grandma.
That very tense of what's happening there is saying, the one who has already received grace, the one whose name is the one who was always full of grace. And so that very greeting, which stunned her and she didn't understand, there's so much meditation on the meaning of what's contained inside of there.
So we think about that. We think about her very nature, her name means friendship with God, intimacy with God. If you have complete intimacy with God, completely in you, that means there's no room for sin. In fact, the word itself, immaculate, just means without stain. And so all that grace was given to her precisely that she could enter into that relationship with God.
what the Lord does for Mary is he's making her the most fitting vessel to carry God himself. And so she receives really a unique grace to do that. And it's not that she doesn't need Christ's redemption to do that, but that those merits of Christ's redemption sort of apply to her ahead of time. So he redeems her so that she can be prepared for this special role.
Instead of her having been defiled with sin and then have that removed by Christ's redemptive action, she's spared from having been defiled by Christ's redemptive action. And that capacitates her, at least in an especially fitting, if not absolutely necessary way, to be the Lord's mother, to be someone from whom he can draw his perfect and unstained humanity.
Think about the love and the care that we give to the Eucharist, and we make sure that it's in a precious chalice, and all the adornments, all the necessary way of reverence that we have to Jesus in communion. Well, how much more Jesus is going to take flesh? How much more pure? How much more beautiful? How much more holy would have need to have been? And so God is preparing this place for her, and that is what the Immaculate Conception is.
Many people will say, oh, I can't relate to Mary because she is full of grace. And I don't feel so full of grace sometimes, right? And so how can I relate? Is she even human? Because I think to a lot of people, human and sinning are synonymous. But what Mary shows to us, and her being full of grace, and what our Lord shows, is that to be human is much, much more than sinning. And it really shows hope from the part of our Lord to us, that he gave us Mary full of grace. And who wouldn't want a mother who's full of grace, a mother who has all the virtues, who has such a big heart with which to love us?
Our Lady begins her life where we hope to end it. And so again, that aspect of hope, she is full of grace. Her whole life, right, from conception and to the Assumption. But that is our hope, right, through the sacraments, that we become more full of grace as we're becoming more and more human, recognizing, I liked what you said of humanity is not actually to be equated with sinfulness. That's fallen humanity. But in God's eyes, who we're meant to be is full of grace. And so she's just showing us that way, and that it's possible through God.
I always think it's so interesting that we use today this expression, oh, he's only being human, or she's only being human. We usually mean that to indicate some kind of sin or imperfection, where of course that's not how God originally intended humanity to be. And if we want to know how he intended us to be, Adam and Eve were created sinless. And they were created in perfect friendship with God. So if we want to understand what it's like to be sinless and to be restored to perfect friendship with God, we can look to Mary and see her example.
Even though Mary was created without sin, she still had freedom. So her great glory is that conformity of her life to God completely, the complete self-gift of her life to God. So we see trust and faith there, and the role that she plays in the mystery of salvation. And for us, teaches us to do the same, right? To imitate that role in the church today, to bring Christ into the world.
What does someone's life look like who doesn't desire sin? Right? When we think of somebody sinless, we might think of somebody kind of stuck in a holy card, somebody who lives with more restrictions than others might. But in fact, this is not what holiness means. This is not the entirety of what it means to be sinless. When we say Mary never desired sin, we mean that she was rightly ordered in everything in her soul. That meant she loved God first and before everything else. She loved her neighbor without selfishness, without envy, without jealousy. She was able to bear wrongdoings without any resentment, without any bitterness. Can you imagine Our Lady going through the Passion of the Lord without resenting anyone, without being bitter towards anyone? The apostles, the Romans, the Pharisees, without wanting to hold anything against them with that kind of vindictive bitterness that we might have experienced ourselves if that was our son being treated in this way. All of a sudden, the world of the Immaculate Conception begins to open up a little bit, and we realize that there's something incredibly, incredibly beautiful to be discovered there if we're going to hear the dogma with a receptive spirit and a mind ready for meditation. And so we would say, is it necessary that Our Lady be sinless? Is it necessary that Our Lady be in that kind of state before sin that Eve was in? No, theoretically, but it is fitting, and it is the way that the good God chose to act. So we can hardly question him and say, could you have found a better way? I imagine not.
Hello. I know we don't know each other, but I saw you over here praying, and I just felt the urge to pray for you, and I have something I'd like you to have. Thank you so much.